Hello and welcome to Brightliness Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing a show that has captured my heart and attention. Invincible. Invincible is a show that focuses on the main character, Marcus Sebastian Grayson. He just goes by Mark in the show, really. He's a superhero created by writer Robert Kirkman and artist Corey Walker, and it's currently drawn by Ryan Otley. A little bit about Mark. He was born in 1986 and he is the son of Omni-Man, an extraterrestrial superhero of the Viltrumite race. Mark inherited his father's crazy range of superpowers. And throughout the show, you'll see how he has sworn to protect Earth and all of the fuckery that comes along with. But enough about Mark, because the whole show is about Mark. I want to focus on what my title is about, Atomic Eve, and how I feel like Invincible writers have done her a little bit dirty. For context, I just finished episode 8 of season 3 last night. I want to focus on Eve's character development, or lack thereof. We first see Atomic Eve's character in season 1, episode 2. For me, she really reminded me of Jean from X-Men. I think it literally is the ginger hair and pale skin, but that was the vibe that I got. And I was excited to see the scale and power of her talent. And unfortunately, I was let down only up until episode 8 of season 3. But let me not go too fast. Let's talk about season 1 and season 2. What I liked initially is that we were beginning to see Eve's perspective, her interactions with Rex and other characters, and I was beginning to understand that she was kind of becoming a main character. We were introduced to her father, Adam Wilkins, and her mother, Betsy Wilkins. It is really evident that their relationship is super strained, and I don't blame her because her father is an asshole. And then we see her mother, who takes on this more submissive role, and it's just a huge amalgamation of an extremely toxic nuclear family structure. The father that wants to be the man of the house is confronted daily by his daughter, who is a superhero and has superpowers, right? She's not only stronger than him, she's also more intelligent than him, and she has the ability to literally create money out of atoms. So even though they're struggling, she reminds them that there is no reason for them to be. But of course, he's extremely arrogant and denies her helping out in any type of way. Loser! And if I'm being completely honest, right, the way that family needed help, he could have at least taken a few $100 here and there. But also, I understand the morality behind that and the ethics behind that. But damn, she can't help out a little bit. And this is onto Betsy, because she plays an extremely submissive role, as I mentioned earlier, and never ever sticks up for Eve. I'm sure that there's also some kind of weird power dynamic within that relationship too, which is very obvious due to a patriarchal society that we do live in. But it does still disappoint me when the father is loud and wrong and she doesn't ever really stick up for Eve. But anyway, moving on. So when we see Eve originally, she is very much with Rex, a character that I love to hate, okay? Rex is a problematic fave of mine. Shout out to him. And now let's get into Eve's relationship with Rex, which in my opinion is definitely a reflection of what's happening within the four walls of her home. She likes a dominant man, someone that's outspoken, someone who doesn't follow the rules, right? Which actually, in that sense, is very much opposite to her dad, who is strict on following the rules. She's kind of looking for somebody that's a bit more of a daredevil, and it's very evident through her dating Rex that she has some kind of daddy issues. I don't want to get too much into his demise, because to this day I'm still expecting him to pop up in another episode, and I do blame the Invincible writers for that, because the first time that happened, he survived. Okay, why couldn't he survive pulling his spine out of his own body? Why couldn't they just make it? I don't know. Why can't he just regenerate a new one? Rex. He was such an entertaining character. Like, he brought the comedic relief, because obviously it's a very heavy show, especially when it's just punching and fighting and gore. And the fact that he is killed, it could have been anyone but Rex. Let's get back onto Eve. So Eve's and Rex's relationship is extremely emotionally abusive, because we find out not too long into the whole entire series that he is a serial cheater. But because of her connection to him and their relationship, Eve is finding it very difficult to actually leave him until she meets Mark. And she has a whole entire new perspective on what love is, what she deserves. They officially break up when Eve finds Rex in the shower with Duplicate and her multiple selves. Okay. doing their thing in the shower, in the steam and heat. And Rex even tries to get back with Eve. And I'm actually proud of her for sticking up for herself and saying, no, this is the last time you're taking me for an idiot. She deserves a round of applause for that, because it's evident that that was actually a very difficult decision for her to make. Here we see the development of Eve's character in real time. I had a feeling that their relationship would turn into a deep love interest, and I was not wrong. As icky as it made me feel, because I loved Amber. Okay, this is an Amber stan account, and Amber definitely deserved better. Because Mark, he was off being a superhero, doing what he had to do, and every single time they organized a date with him and Amber, she would get stood up.
I tried to get security, but there wasn't anyone.
Lying piece of
Wait,
shit.
no, this isn't what it looks like.
You took off. You left us here with that thing.
Amber, no, that's not what happened.
You said you wanted to start over. You said that. You promised. Even Eve vouched for you, and then you do this?
So, we can kind of see the emotional development of Eve. One thing that I have to get at the writers for is, first of all, Eve's attraction to Mark, and how, in my opinion, it turns her into a bird and a little bit of a pick me. And second of all, Eve's power not making sense. She is, in my opinion, probably one of the strongest characters in the show, but we don't see that until episode 8 of season 3. Before that, in the fights, Eve was getting her ass handed to her. Okay? Repeatedly, but only at episode 8 we see and we begin to understand why it is that Eve is so weak, even though she controls atoms. Why are we finding out the information so late that there are certain caps on Eve's power? Why are we finding that out so late? And it's because they pay too much attention to Mark's story. And I get it, he's a protagonist, but there needs to be a little bit more development of the women characters, a little bit more. And now on to Eve and Mark's relationship. Not even long after he breaks up with Amber, he has this revelation that he loves Eve after he is taken into some random kind of portal realm by the evil man with the big head. That's all he's gonna get from me, the evil man with the big head, okay? I'm joking. His name is Angstrom Levy, and he's played perfectly well by Sterling K. Brown, okay? And he does a fantastic job playing that character, because he is annoying as hell. You are annoying. You and your big ass head need to go back where you came from immediately. So when he's transported into this new realm or new world, we see him meet the future version of Eve. Eve comes in and she's just talking about, tell her that you love her, even if you don't want to be with her, tell her that you love her. And I couldn't help but feel, girl, stand up, stand up, stand up.
Y'all be weak in the knees. Stand up. Stand up.
Like, future you is still so hung up over Mark that you have to come back from the future to say this to him. Obviously, you're helping her out, but that's the last thing you have to say, is that tell her you love her. No. And this is what I really gets me about Eve's character within this show, is that she just gives me desperate for a man vibes. And I hate that the writers have done that to her, because she is so powerful and also has the potential to be a badass bitch. One scene that will always stick with me in my mind is when Mark is late to meeting Eve in Paris, and she says to him, you don't ever have to explain to me, it's fine, I get it. All I could think of is, you have no issue with him being late. And yes, okay, he might be saving the world, but for her to kind of normalize that and just not expect anything says to me that her standards are in hell and her self-esteem is also in hell. Following that relationship with Rex, did she have enough time to heal? We didn't see anything about her healing journey apart from her buying, not even buying, but making a flipping treehouse in some random tree somewhere. But where was the therapy? Where was it? Where were the conversation on her healing journey? We didn't get that. Instead, she just lands herself into another relationship with another superhero who in reality is unable to give her all of the time that she needs and deserves, because he's off being the strongest superhero in the whole entire planet. So he's always called for jobs in comparison to Eve. Like, he doesn't have an off day. Another scene that also made me have a massive question mark over my head is when Eve was looking for Mark and she finally saw him sitting on a rooftop of his house. And she was like, I was looking all over for you. When have we ever seen Mark look all over for Eve? We have not seen that, and we're not going to. All of this to say that the women characters, specifically Eve, have this tendency to really cater and nurture the male characters within this show. And oftentimes it is not reciprocated. And that's how I really want to touch on where I think the writers kind of failed And it's about how they displayed the relationships between the women and the men within the show, because more often than not, the love, the care, the nurturing is not reciprocated. It's often that these women characters are going way out their way to care and nurture for these men. And it really reflects our actual real human society and life. I think this is best explained via Debbie Grayson's relationship with Omni-Man, or Nolan Grayson, right? Mark's father. But now I want to move away from Eve's love life and talk about the fight scenes, because I was ready to pull my hair out of my head with frustration, because why is she always getting her ass beat? Eve possesses the power of vast subatomic manipulation abilities, allowing her to rearrange matter on a molecular level to create, transmute, or restructure objects. Her power is insane. Despite that, during the fight scenes, it never ever made sense to me why she would always get knocked out. She literally has the ability to tear somebody apart and put them back together again. It's insane. And early in episode 8, season 3, do we get a slight explanation as to what happened to her and why she isn't able to reach her full capability. And she says it after basically being on her deathbed. It also reminded me of how I felt when I found out that she was actually adopted, when they just showed that picture of her and her family. And I was like, huh? I was so confused. Eve really deserves better, because we just saw a picture of her and her family, and I'm pretty sure I had to Google after that, is Eve adopted? And so whilst the writers are definitely amazing at developing Mark's story, Omni-Man's story, and even Alan's story, okay, they're lacking extremely on the women characters. And I know that people often speak about the power consistency problem, which in itself is definitely frustrating. But the thing with Eve is that she was never consistent to begin with. She was just portrayed as a very weak woman character, despite having and being probably one of the most powerful people, superheroes, I should say, on Earth. And it just makes me question, why is that? Admittedly, I haven't read the comics, and maybe they provide further context on Eve and her character, but I can't help but think and feel that the women characters in Invincible, particularly Eve, are kind of ignored and have very much a side character energy, even though she has such a rich story and so much more that I want to find out about. And after speaking with my friends, they also want to find more about. So I feel like they're missing out on something here. And by the way, I have also Googled and I have seen that there is a little spin off version of Eve. But I don't know, I just don't feel like I should have to watch the spin off to find out a little bit more about her story. I don't know, especially when I think about how her character was set up in season 1 and season 2. Like, we were finding out a little bit more about her, but the moment that she began dating Mark, it's as though her whole entire world shifted and just focused on Mark. And hey, a lot of women have to observe ourselves and interrogate ourselves and what it is to be a male centered woman. And obviously, Eve is still very young. She's around 18 years old, I believe, in season 3. And she has to confront that herself. But still, but still, I just kind of want a little bit more. A little bit more. Overall, I do love her character. I just think she has so much potential, and I just don't want it to not be shown within the series. And I also feel like we're lacking a lot of main characters who are black women. I really, really do. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, shout out to the writers of Invincible. You guys have written an amazing, amazing show. I just want to share my feedback and thoughts. Let me know what you think about Invincible and Atomic Eve's character, whether you agree with what I'm saying or even disagree with what I'm saying. If you want to see more, let me know exactly what else I should review. I have a few other things that I'm going to also review within upcoming weeks. So yeah, see you in the next one.